Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Stacie, and joined today by Hayley and Sally. Thank you all for coming along. We hope that by the end of this session, you will feel a little bit more willing to perhaps explore your ideas that you have. And obviously today we're going to be talking about why you are the right person to bring your idea to life, even if you feel anxious and self-doubting, which is something that all three of us here can relate with and that we have experience of. So how today's going to work is that we are just going to really have a chat amongst the three of us and kind of share a little bit more about some of our experiences and most importantly, some of the things that we've learned over the last few years. And we invite you to share any comments and any questions that you have in the chat area, which should be to the right of you. Hayley's going to pop a little message in there now. So the chat is set to private, which means that we can see all of your messages. We can see any comments that you post and any questions that you share. But the other people who are also watching and attending today can't see what you share. So it's free for you to share any thoughts that you have. Okay. So the purpose of today is for your own personal informational purposes only, and this isn't a substitute for working one-to-one with a professional who understands your personal circumstances and situations. Yeah, your camera and mic are off, so we also can't see you. So yes, just what you share in the chat there. So if we'd like to start by sharing actually what it is that you'd like to gain from today's session, that's always a nice way to start. And Sally, would you like to share a little bit about who you are and what your role is at SSE for those who are tuning in?
Thanks, Steve. So I'm the learning manager at the School for Social Entrepreneurs in Cornwall, which sounds very grand, doesn't it? I was the learning facilitator. I got a title upgrade, but no other upgrade. But so that's I help run programs, which are short programs and a few long ones as well, working with people who have an idea they think they'd like to explore without any pressure to make that into anything particular. I love chatting with people about what they want to get out of things for themselves. It's all about them, really. Yeah,
lovely. So I can see that some people are sharing in the comments here that they'd like to hear a little bit about overcoming self-doubt and staying positive and confident, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Like I said, all three of us have had experience of feeling anxious and believing like we're not the person who can do things or like bring our ideas to life, run a business, and those anxieties have definitely something that we've all experienced, and yet found ways to be able to work through that discomfort and still be able to be successful. So Hayley, would you like to share a little bit about how Quiet Connections came to life?
Okay, so Quiet Connections has come to life because I grew up really shy, socially anxious, and I was avoiding all of the good things in life. I was afraid to make a mistake, and I just didn't put myself out there, and I missed out on so much. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought that, I was different, I was broken, and I didn't realise that these anxieties that I felt, this self-doubt that I felt, was actually pretty common and quite a normal thing, to be honest. So I realised what an impact it had on my life. And as I started talking about it, I noticed that there was so many other people who felt this way too. And I saw that there was this big gap, that no one was really talking about this anxiety that we feel in social situations. Oh, someone's saying they can't hear me properly. I'm just going to carry on. And then if you really can't hear anything, then you'll get a replay after this anyway. So I saw this gap, that there needed to be more conversation around the anxiety that we felt. And I had this little acorn of an idea, because it had taken me maybe 10 years for me to get to a stage where I felt like I could really show up and be seen, and I'd learned so much, and I had this little idea for Quiet Connections, and I was like, well, someone needs to do something, someone needs to bring this support and start these conversations, and I was like, that person is not me. So it took me quite a while to even begin to start exploring the idea for Quiet Connections, and to get to a place where I thought, well, maybe it could be me, because no one else is doing it. So if I don't do it, who else is going to? And I'll share some of the insights that I learned that really helped me with that. But basically, I've gone from a place of avoiding all kind of public attention, public speaking, just shying away in the background, really, to being in this position where we are now presenting to hundreds of people at a time, and really putting ourselves out there and really being vulnerable and sharing our own personal stories too.
Yeah. So what I forgot to mention is that Hayley and I met on the SSE program with Sally. Sally was one of our facilitators on the startup course, and this was in 2016, wasn't it? So me and Hayley, we work at Quiet Connections. Hayley is the founder, but we're both directors and both coaches now. And yeah, my story is slightly different in respects to when I joined SSE, I came in with a different idea, and I started to set up a business with that original idea, and came in and explored what that could possibly be, and then I let it go. So my story is really kind of grounded in exploration, permission to have a go and explore, because you really do never know where your ideas might take you, but also really in trusting your own instincts and following what feels right for you. And if something doesn't feel like it's going in the right direction, or perhaps you realize that you want to change direction, pivot, or anything like that, that's perfectly okay as well. So yeah, my journey kind of went from starting a business, realizing that this isn't quite right for me, and then I gradually became a part of Quiet Connections. So, which I obviously seen your story, Hayley, kind of like, and Quiet Connections grow kind of from the start there, as obviously I met you at the start of this idea on the SSE program. So it's been a really, really amazing journey, really, but very natural, very organic.
So one thing that we really love about SSE is that the School for Social Entrepreneurs at SSE is that the team all really get it. They all have their own experiences of setting up a business, of feeling the same kind of anxieties and self-doubt that we have experienced as well, even though we might not really know that at the time. So this is why today is really important, because Sally is the one person one of the people who will be running the programs at the School for Social Entrepreneurs that you may go on to get involved in. And it's really important for you to also hear Sally's side of the story too. So Sally, do you want to share a little bit about your own personal journey in setting up a business and exploring an idea?
Yeah, thanks, Hayley. It's quite an interesting thing that you've both said around how important it is that you listen to your gut instinct, and you go if something doesn't feel quite right, or if something's missing. So I was working for SSE Cornwall, and the feeling like I was making it up as I went along, and so there I was trying to bring like speakers, experts in to talk on one of these programs, and not really knowing anybody, how good they were, what they were going to be like, what people wanted, all these amazing social entrepreneurs turning up, and then me having to stand up in front and welcome people and introduce the specialist. And I must have looked like a rabbit in the headlights. I mean, I've been there now for 7 years, but I would seriously say for the first 5 years, I was running to catch up. And funnily enough, actually, I would say in lockdown, where I've been able to do stuff from my desk in my kitchen, has been so calming for me. I know it's been a terrible time for so many people, and we've all had awful things happen. But in terms of a sense of calm, I've been able to sort of gather what I think I know and talk to people and tell them how I've been feeling over the last 5 years, 6 years, and that sort of working with what I do know and then sharing my own story about running my own business. So when I'm not doing an SSE program, I'm a forest school leader, and I only have become a forest school leader because when I was in SSE, when an dear old friend of mine had come on a program and she said, "Oh, I'm doing this really cool stuff now in Woodlands. Do you want to come along?" And I turned up and there were like, 35, 40 people there, all of them way younger than me. And they're all doing sort of environmental stuff at university. And there I was sort of sitting there going, "Oh, you know, I like walking around Woodlands with my little boy." He was 7 at the time. This was back in 2014. But what we were asked to do was to just sort of wander around and pick stuff up off the ground and explore nature. And it was it does help if it's a lovely sunny day, of course. And it was. But then we were asked to do something a bit different, which was to light a little fire. And I'd never, as a child, I was the youngest of 5. I was never given the chance to do the thing in the household. I was never got to use the drill or light the fire or, whatever it is that was being done. And here I was just allowed to do it on my own quietly in a corner of the woodland and not told how to do it properly, just allowed to work it out. And I got it lit. That incredible sense of achievement that I felt at the age I was about 44 at the time. And I just thought, oh, goodness, this is amazing. Why haven't I done this earlier? And so I could then decide whether I wanted to train. And I thought, well, I'm too old to train to do something else. But then my friend who was running the course, she was 55 then, and she, only trained a couple of years earlier. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And here I am, sort of, 2020, and I'm actually running my own forest school. And I think partly it's been a series of knocks along the way. I have to say, it's not an easy journey. I have met people who've been less than supportive. I've wanted to give up because I thought it was too hard, a struggle each time turning up, especially when it's lashing with rain, it's cold, I'm lugging loads of kit in, I've got children who are getting cold, freezing, I've got to really just, proper stuff. But what I would say is that in the moment, when you're in the moment, especially with children who don't come with baggage, they are themselves in front of you and they're really present. I get so much from that. A friend of mine on social media posted about one of those quote things yesterday, which is about success. And I just thought that was so timely because she said, success is gaining the affection of a child. It's so many things, it's so many little things in a day. And I get that every Saturday when I run a session, and I don't run it alone. I have a really excellent friend who runs it with me, who's a teacher, an outdoor educator. But when that child comes up to show me something in their hand they found, I just want that moment to last. It's that moment of happiness, that transient moment of happiness where I feel like I feel I'm home. And that's what I count. Those are the things I count as being, I'm the right person in that moment for that child. I'm the right person in the right place for me. And that's how I feel. But it's not easy. And I've had so many moments of doubt.
Yeah, I love so much of what you said there, Sally, because what I heard there was that, you've experienced a lot of anxieties there, that there was quite a few thoughts and doubts that came up around, you being too old or feeling like, that you couldn't do it. But actually it's that feeling of like doing something that brings you so much joy and that brings so much fulfillment that actually like being in touch with those feelings and what it is that is important to you and what you value is really, really helpful in helping us summon up that courage to actually overcome some of those anxieties. And I do feel like when it comes to exploring an idea or setting up a business or a community project, that's one of the key things that we need to keep bringing ourselves back to, is why do I want to do this? What is so important about this project or this business or this idea that it's just pulling me towards that, no matter how much I know how many doubts or anything that I have, I just keep coming back to this idea and this drawing towards needing to do it. And I think that's such an important thing to keep reminding ourselves of, is like, why is this so important to me? So I'd also really like to pose a question to those who are watching as to what is your idea of what success looks like, which Hayley has also just shared there. Because I think we all have this idea in our heads of what a successful person looks like, or of like our idea of like what a business person is, or someone who runs or starts something new. I know for me it was very much someone who was just very confident, or at least what I perceived to be confident, and someone who just never ever experienced any feelings of anxiety. And for me, that was almost like the opposite of how I saw myself. I was someone who was like, I feel so very anxious, and especially like when I started SSE, I remember feeling terrified of coming onto that program. And I know you did as well, Hayley, didn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the gap between who we think we need to be successful and who we think we are right now is where we can get really fearful and hold ourselves back, because we think, well, I can't get to be that person. And for me, I used to feel like I had to be this very confident, outgoing, chatty, connected, more extroverted person than I was. I'm seeing a few comments coming through saying, confident, need to be stress proof, need to not experience any anxiety. And, like you, Stacie, I thought that I was looking around at all these people who I perceived to be successful, and I saw them as being confident, and I thought they've never experienced anxiety and self-doubt like I have. And and even with you, Sally, when we were on the course, like you come across very confident, and you wouldn't know how you're feeling underneath that. And for Sally Heard as well, who she heads up the School for Social Entrepreneurs in Cornwall, and she's amazing. You just wouldn't realise that underneath that, you both feel the same kind of anxieties and self-doubts as we experience too. And the real difference is not that you don't feel anxious and you don't feel self-doubting, it's just that you don't let it stop you.
I think that's so true. I mean, this sounds a bit mad, I suppose. Every time I'm getting close to a Saturday where I'm going to run a session, I get nervous. I'm running a session tomorrow, and I know that the other person I run it with is all over it, because she's doing this daily. Well, she probably isn't, of course. If I was to ask her, maybe I should ask her, because I get really nervous before all the children turn up, and it's a bit like stepping out on stage, isn't it? And yet, of course, each child arrives and they're nervous, and so I need to put my big pants on for them and welcome them and be. I wonder if one of the secrets that I found is to just focus on the person in front of me and make that personal connection. And so when I was that sort of early days of SSE and being the learning facilitator and welcoming these big bod social entrepreneurs, when I had to stand at the sign-in desk, when these people are coming at you, and I had to ask them their name. But after about the third time of meeting them, I would know their name, and they would look for me. And so, but they didn't want to talk about business. They just wanted to find out, how was I, what I'd done at the weekend. And it became an individual personal conversation. And so those people that made that effort with me, because I clearly looked terrified, made it easier for me. And I think if I can do that for the children, that's one of my secrets anyway to getting through it.
Yeah, I really like that idea of focusing on, just making that connection with just one person. It's actually something that I try and do as well to help manage and any nerves that I'm feeling, especially when doing something like this or community groups or something. Is just to think about, okay, it's just one person. It doesn't have to be loads of people. But also, Sally, like what you just said there reminded me of. So like one of the things that I used to think was that when it came to like the world of business, that everybody else who was involved weren't human, that they were like some kind of like different breed of person, and that and I think it's just such a weird, but it's also very common as well for us to think that anyone who is involved in other businesses or who run projects or have like high positions in organizations or something, that it's not okay to reach out to them or to connect with them. And that was quite a barrier for me, and thinking that, I suppose it's seeing people as being above who you are. And once I realized that people are all just people, and that we do all feel this way, and we all have our insecurities and things that we feel nervous about and anxious about, then that can be a really nice way of starting to recognize actually we can all connect with one another.
Absolutely. I love that people to people, you are all on the same level, whether you are talking to someone who has a managerial position or someone who is unemployed. You are all exactly at the same level of status. And it's just remembering that, and remembering that those feelings of anxiety and feelings of self-doubt, they're not unique to you. Those are human emotions. If you are talking to a human being, you are talking to someone who knows what that feels like. And I think when I was on the School for Social Entrepreneurs startup course, well, I'll tell you about how we got on the course, because actually the startup course was a very difficult application process. It was very long. We had group interviews, like to a Dragon's Den style panel.
That was scary.
Yeah. I had an individual interview with Sally Hurd, who runs the Cornwall School for Social Entrepreneurs. And yeah, it was all very scary. And the whole way through, I was just like not focusing on the outcome, and I just need to get through the next step and just show up and do my best. And I got this call from Sally Hurd to say that I had got through. And I was like, that's amazing. And I was jumping around their house, which is really out of character for me, by the way. And then suddenly I had this like, oh, I'm going to be like Sally Hurd's biggest mistake ever. She's going to really regret taking me on. I'm going to really let her down. And all this self-doubt just weighed down on me. Like shame gremlins were on my shoulder telling me I'm not the right person and I'm in the wrong place. And then when I was actually on the course, I was looking around at Stacie and all these other wonderful people who had ideas that they were bringing to life alongside me. And I was thinking, well, they are so much more confident, so much more capable, so much further ahead than me. And just I felt so much comparison looking at these people around me, and just felt like I was going to get found out for being in the wrong place, and somehow I tricked myself into this space on the course. And of course that wasn't true. And when I actually started talking about how I felt with Stacie and some of the other people on the course, some of them were even like, oh, I've been feeling the same way, and I've been feeling like that about you, like you're doing so much better than me. And it was just such a relief to realize that the majority of us were feeling this way too. We were kind of going through the same like imposterism, I suppose. Like I feel like I'm not supposed to be here, and like I can't do this. And what we realized is that we tend to compare ourselves. So imagine you've got like a pack of cards and you can see the face of every single card that you're holding, and the people opposite you can't see those. And you can see on those cards, you've got your personal history, you've got your insecurities, everything that you think, everything that you feel, everything that you believe about yourself. and you can see every single one of those cards, and someone else is going to show you just a couple of the cards that they want you to see, and they are going to show you the cards that are the best cards that they are holding in their pack, and you're not going to see that they've got very similar cards that actually they don't really like themselves as well. So we're comparing like the whole of our story to a very tiny piece of somebody else's story. And it's really important to remember that if they are human, they are the same kind of thing. And, it's a really common experience, and you just need to scratch the surface to get to those similar vulnerabilities and insecurities that we all feel.
Gosh, that is so true. I love the analogy of the pack of cards. I think that's fascinating, what we choose to show people and choose to keep. And now, a bit having sort of gone through the forest school training and meeting loads of teachers, people who have spent time with children, know all these things, know how to. And I remember sitting there thinking, I know nothing. Apart from my own child, I don't even know. I don't understand. What are these children things? I felt such a fraud. And for the first 3 years of actually operating as a pro, every time I felt I was saying something that was not acceptable in the teacher world. And yet, when I then spoke to the teachers about how they cope in classrooms, they were like, "Oh, it's so hard. I always feel like I'm making a mistake on it." But of course, they had to present themselves as being every day on a daily basis of holding it together. And I think it was only when I asked them about their insecurities around being in that situation, again, it's that scratching that surface. I don't think I've met anybody through or any of the SSE programs where that hasn't been the case, where I've just asked them a little bit more and they've shown a vulnerability. But and I remember, I don't know if this came up for you guys when you were applying to the startup program, but one of the things that comes up when people apply is that they show their shiniest side, really shiny. And I remember reading through some of the application forms, and we look at ourselves in the office and we go, why do they want to come on the course? These guys have got it all together. They don't need us. And in some of the interviews, I know that some of my colleagues have said, why do you want to come on this course? Because actually, we think you know everything you need to know. So unless you're going to show all your some of your gaps, be prepared to just go, actually, I really don't know about that. Because we can't teach, can't share anything if all the boxes are full. So I think there's a lot to be said about that, about just going, actually, I know nothing about, I know nothing about business planning. I know nothing about finance. I know nothing about making a difference. What is this thing about making a difference? What does that mean? Because otherwise, how do we find our way in to how to help? So, yeah. I don't know how useful that is.
No, I completely agree, Sally. Like we quite often feel like we need to show up and feel as though we already have it all figured out. And for a lot of us, like that's a lot of pressure that we place on ourselves, and giving ourselves that permission to know that we don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to know all the answers. That it's okay to learn as we go, and to make mistakes is something that is really important to learn. But it's also recognizing that that's something that a lot of us need to practice, and to give ourselves that permission as well first, because a lot of us have beliefs and stuff in like that we've grown up with that kind of say otherwise to us, and this was especially like the same with me, Sally. So when I joined SSE, I felt as though I was really, really out of place, because I came in with nothing more than an idea. It wasn't a business. I had no idea how to run a business, how to start a business, and I felt as though most people around were way further ahead. And even now, actually, because my background is in fashion, like that's where I trained, that's what I've got a degree in. I worked freelance in that industry for a while, And then, you know, after I let go of my business and I joined Quiet Connections, like entering this new kind of field, I suppose, this new industry, like for quite a while, I also really felt like an imposter and was like, but, you know, I'm not trained in this area. I'm not the person to be doing this work. And what I've noticed is that it's not really always like what you are skilled or trained in, like your degrees or your previous experience that always matters. It's what you personally bring, what like qualities and gifts that you naturally have as a person are quite often like the most important parts to be exploring. So, you know, the reason why I, you know, fit in so well with Quiet Connections is because of just who I am as a person. You know, I'm very good at listening. I'm very good at holding space for people. I'm very supportive, but I didn't always recognize those qualities within myself either. So we can quite often trick ourselves into feeling like, or like I suppose that inner critic can take over, and we can tell ourselves like, I'm not good enough for that role, I'm not the right person, I need to be someone that I'm not, or I should be doing something more. And the truth is that our thoughts aren't always reality. So, you know, our brains can only process like so much information every second, and I never remember the number. Hayley tends to remember that more than I do. But generally what happens then is that our brain creates these filters that decides what it wants to let in consciously. So what ends up happening is that we distort, generalize and delete certain bits of information. So if we believe something to be true, and whether that's about ourselves or about how a situation is going to turn out, then our brains, like our filters, are set to look for evidence that's going to back those up. And until we start exploring what else could be true, you know, whether again, like if that's starting to recognize some of our qualities within ourselves and the things that we like about ourselves, the things that we're actually good at, then we can start to reset those filters to also start looking for the evidence that backs those up as well. So, you know, and I think for both myself and Hayley, that's been something that's been quite a challenge. But also, you know, we have feedback from people that we've worked with that really kind of indicates otherwise, that, you know, we are the right people to be doing this. And yeah, it's important to focus on those aspects and explore what makes you, I suppose, the good things that you really like about yourself and the qualities that you personally bring. And, you know, all your experiences in life can lead towards, you know, forming whatever it is that you're wanting to explore.
The two things are coming up for me there. Firstly, for me, I was in this position of like, I need to collect qualifications. I'm not ready yet to go out and coach people and support people. And I would just like be looking for the next course and the next thing that I needed to do in order to be enough for the people that I wanted to help. And my coach said to me, how many qualifications are you going to need? When are you going to stop? And the truth was that I was just going to keep going and collect qualifications, and I still was not going to feel good enough. But what I learned was that I just had to get started and just had to start putting myself out there and just taking small steps and stretching my comfort zone and getting used to being that person. And like Stacie, still at times I feel like, you know, I don't really have this. I'm not, you know, other people sometimes call us experts in the field, or we have messages about us being inspirational speakers and things, and we're like, oh, that's not us. That's like a big deal to live up to. And we just have to remember that, you know, this is other people's perspectives, and the way that we see ourselves isn't necessarily real at all. And in fact, we tend to have very negative views of ourselves, and we focus in on all the things that we don't really like about ourselves. We focus in on the things that we have failed at, or the things that we don't feel good about within ourselves. And where we have this very negative self-image of ourselves usually. And if we have that negative self-image, like Stacie says, we look for information that confirms what we already believe. If I believe that I can't speak in public, I'm going to be collecting lots of information about all the times that I can't speak in public, all the things that could possibly go wrong. And I'm totally going to overlook any moments where I have been able to do that. And it's going to be the same for you. If you believe something about yourself, you're going to be collecting that information. So we need to just gently shift that belief to, you know, what else could be true? What could be possible? Because, I mean, let's face it, we all believed in Santa Claus at one time, and it turns out that Santa Claus wasn't real. So
It's not?
Sorry.
No, that's a really good point.
What about the tooth fairy? Can we talk about the tooth fairy?
I don't know. I think I might have taken it too far already.
Massively real in my house.
Yeah, so the things that you believe about yourself right now aren't necessarily how you really are. And we tend to have lots and lots of blind spots about what we can do and how we come across. And actually, if we find that we've held ourselves back a lot in life and we haven't really given ourselves a chance to step up and try something, then we don't know if we can do it anyway. You know, have you ever like been at a dinner table with a kid and the kid's like, I don't like carrots. Have you tried carrots? No, I just don't like them. Like, how frustrating is that when you know they haven't actually given it a go? And we do this to ourselves as well, where we just assume we can't do something. And like Stacie will touch on in a minute, it's really important to just allow ourselves to give ourselves permission to have a go and to make mistakes and change direction and just collect information that tells us what we enjoy and what we can do.
Yeah, so I was going to say something which I've now forgotten. Yeah, you made a really good point there, Hayley, around I suppose giving ourselves that permission to explore things, because in my case, like with my experience and with my story, if I hadn't taken that first step or given myself that chance to just see what was a possibility with this idea that I had, then I really wouldn't be in this position that I'm in now. And I do strongly believe that, because my path wouldn't have crossed with you. I wouldn't have met on the SSC program. So taking that chance on myself, and by the way, like previously, like my go-to response when I feel quite anxious is to avoid altogether. It's really to freeze. I experience what I think Brene Brown describes as life paralysis. So that is that I don't even try if I don't feel like I can do it. So that's been something that I've had to really work on over the last few years. I think when I look back on me even applying for SSE, that was like a huge thing for me to do. And the only reason I felt able to do that was because someone else saw something in me that I hadn't quite seen myself or within that idea, and really encouraged me to apply for it, and was like, I'll help you with the application. I've been on the program before. I think it's going to be really helpful for you. So having that support there from somebody else was really, really helpful. So yeah, I came into SSE with this idea for a knitwear brand that, you know, because of my training and my degree, I felt like I had to do something in the realms of like fashion, because that was what I knew. But I also really, really wanted to help people and to support people. So I set out to create something that was around creating self-care, knitting and crochet kits. But throughout the course of the program, I found myself being really drawn towards actually working more directly with people, having community groups, community spaces, and creating a place where people can actually practice, giving themselves permission to make mistakes, to, like Hayley says, stretch their comfort zones, and to really connect with other people. So by the end of like I suppose like the SSE course. So I think it was about 6 months after, when I was kind of evaluating what I had done so far and realized I've got almost like 2 separate businesses here going on, and they're just not gelling together. And whilst like there was this part of me that was like, I'm gonna try and force them together, because, you know, a part of me felt like I had to commit to what it was that I had originally set out to do, that I didn't have that permission to go, actually, I can let go of some of this. I came in just to explore. And when I did finally realize that I really just needed to listen to what my gut was telling me, to what my heart was saying, to be like, actually, let's just focus on this one area, which really was like the community aspect and the support aspect, that I realized that it was okay to let go of something else. And then obviously Hayley was already kind of doing the same thing, and we had already worked and collaborated a little bit more together, so we just decided to join forces. But really, like, I would say that what I learned throughout that process was that ideas are really just ideas, that they're not things that need to, I said, like, you're allowed to change your mind. Ideas are there to be explored, because if we don't give ourselves that chance to even just see what could potentially happen with it, we don't know like where that path might take us. And if there's one thing that I've found like the most worthwhile throughout the last couple of years, is that through taking that step to initially explore that original idea, I have really gotten to know who I am. I have learned so much about myself. I've seen what I'm capable of. And I've connected with people that I think I never would have really connected with before. And just that in itself is really worthwhile. So sometimes it's okay to detach ourselves from the outcome, to detach ourselves from that pressure of, I need to, you know, stick at it even if something doesn't feel right anymore, to allow ourselves that permission to just trust ourselves and to see what happens.
Oh, Stacie, I think that's so true about the permission thing, giving yourself permission to try, permission to change, permission to explore, without there being a requirement for an end goal. Just literally seeing what feels right. It's incredibly liberating to be in a space where that's possible, and you're not asking someone else for permission to do that, but you're just, it's allowed, you know, it's already a given. It's powerful stuff.
One thing that we say here is that Quiet Connections is a research project, and everything that we do is open to being explored and changed, and we collect feedback and we adjust it, and we're just not fixed to the ideas that we have. And, you know, Quiet Connections is far from the little acorn of an idea that I once had, and it's become so much more because of the involvement of the people that we work with, and because of Stacie and you guys. And you know, once you're on this journey and you've taken the first step, you just collect so much information. And I think it's really important to remember that we don't have to have all the answers before we start moving. We can, you know, we don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step and just begin to explore and see where it takes us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, like, for me personally, Sally, the thing that I found the most beneficial from being on the SSE program was the people that I met, and connecting with those people, and, you know, being in that space with others who, like, I think it's very helpful when you see other people also being like, okay, we're all just going to explore this together. We're all in this space of like, I don't know really what I'm doing. And that's a really like you said, it's like a powerful thing, isn't it, to be in that space with others who are also on that journey with you.
I think that's one of the things that we really enjoy. I mean, as someone who tries to hold a session, I suppose, so that people can do that, it's that interconnection between everybody. It's that that word of support that I'll hear from one person to another, it's so heartening. And we had this recently on a session where somebody was having a lot of technical issues, but also I could feel the tension building for that person that was already there. That level of anxiety was feeling just at the starting with us. This first half hour on a Zoom session, and one of the other people in the group, after I'd said it's absolutely fine, you take your time over, he said it's okay. We're all right at the start of this, and we're all in it together. And he didn't know her. She'd never met him before, but it built on that idea of the brave, safe space that we try to create. So we ask people, what is it you will need here right now to be able to be brave, to feel safe enough to speak if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to, but to start to expand on your ideas. And it doesn't need to be one, it could be several ideas, it could be all sorts of things floating around, because I know that I need several things. I need for it to be sort of confidential within those people I'm talking to, and it needs to be kind, and above all kind, and for there to be time, space to do that thinking. So yeah, it heartens me every time.
Oh, I love that about the time and the space. I was employed when I first started exploring this idea, and my employer was like, no, you just have to get out there, put your business out there, get started right now, otherwise someone else is going to come in, they're going to steal your idea, they're going to be doing it for you, there's not going to be enough space for you. And I was like,
even you saying that, Hayley's like
I know like I'm really slow and reflective, and honestly Quiet Connections has been a very, very, very long journey before it even came to life. And now I really honor the fact that I have allowed it to be that way, and I've really gone with my own quiet strengths and been more reflective and done the research, and I've not given into that pressure that I have to just get out there and have it all set up and just throw myself into this space like I was being told to do. And I can see some comments saying that you're allowing yourself this space and time and kindness as well, and that's really, really beautiful. And I think if I was the type of person who was just able to throw themselves out there and put themselves in the limelight and just probably much more extroverted, if you're going to do that, to be fair, then it wouldn't have worked. That wasn't who the people who we support here in Quiet Connections need. The people that we support need someone who's going to show up, and they're going to be quieter and calmer and more sensitive, and they're going to be maybe quietly confident, but able to show their vulnerabilities and show up and let people know when we're feeling anxious, which we quite often do. And you quite often see us starting a workshop going, I'm feeling really anxious about this right now, because that's really normal. If you're just trying something new, you're going to feel anxious. That's just part of the process. And Quiet Connections has, in the last 2 years, we've reached 15,000 people through doing presentations, through webinars, through attending panels as sort of experts on the panel, and through coaching and our app and our workshops. And I think we very quietly have a real impact on a lot of people's lives.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I mean, it's been wonderful to see so many people coming from Quiet Connections onto some of the SSE programs, particularly the Springboard program, and how they would never have pressed that send button of the email. In fact, when we were doing some research amongst people who'd been on the program, who'd come through you, and the comments around needing to really put their big pants on to even connect in the first instance. One person said it was the bravest thing they'd done in the whole of that time, was to literally say, hello, could I find out more about, because that was starting that ball rolling. And I mean, she's done amazing things, as you know, since then, but that massive step And it had come from the inner critic. It had come from a background of hearing people say to her, you know, you can't do that. You're not good at that. You won't do that. You won't be able to do that. And so the fear of hearing that again, putting herself in a position where that could be heard again, terrifying. And she was able to press the button and have the quiet when she wanted it. So she didn't have to speak if she didn't want to. And I think that gave her the chance. So by sort of the end of the course that she'd come on, I mean, she was really sharing some amazing thoughts and skills and ability to just go, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do this. Because she has. so you know, I mean, some people are a long burn. I was a very long burn with what I wanted to do. And some people just, they're validated. You can see people validating them in sessions going, oh, this is what you have is amazing. You can, you know, this, what you're talking about is wonderful. I would love to come on a session. If you ran this, I would book onto it. And just hearing, just being able to say it out there and know whether anyone would want it. I think that's a very, it's a lovely little safe space to test that.
Yeah, I love what you said there, Sally, because I think for so many of us that inner critic, and then one of the things that really holds us back is that we're fearing what other people are going to think of our idea or of us, but usually we're thinking about the people who actually aren't the people that we're probably going to be working with or serving. So I know for me, like, it's fearing like what family members are going to think, what certain friends are going to think, when actually they're not my clients, they're not and also that they're also not running businesses or you know, taking those steps themselves to do something that is, you know, this is scary. Like, you know, taking that first step is probably the hardest thing to do, and it's taking a chance on yourself. And it's actually, I would say, a really, like, a real demonstration of courage and self-trust, that actually you want to take that step and give yourself that, like, value yourself enough to take that chance. So quite often we're fearing the comments and potential criticism from people who are not in that arena, whereas we find when we step into it, those people are actually usually like the most supportive. We're all going through the same thing, and that actually we all want to see each other succeed.
And I think that's, yeah, sorry, Hayley, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I absolutely agree. I came from, you know, I grew up on a place called Old Hill in Falmouth, and for those of you who don't know it, Old Hill has quite the reputation, and the people on my street were kind of shop workers, factory workers, cleaners, carers, and in my family it was very similar as well. We even had drug dealers on our street, and it wasn't, you know, I wasn't surrounded by people who were running businesses, and it just didn't seem like it was a possibility for me from where I had come from. And you know, I was kind of the one person in the family to go off and get a degree eventually at university. And yeah, it was just, I think it's quite hard for the people who we live with sometimes, or the people who are close to us, to get their head around that you can do something differently, and you're not just going to go into this route that they expect you to go into and follow the traditional, like, this is what we do in this family, we're all carers, or, you know, you're going to get a good job and be a solicitor, or, you know, we can do something that's more heart focused and maybe doesn't make an awful lot of logical sense to people, but it feels like the right thing for us.
I totally understand that thing around family, Hayley, what you're saying there. On a regular weekly basis, my father will tell me he doesn't understand what I do or why I do it. He will mispronounce forest school. He will ask again, why am I doing this? How much money am I making out of this? He doesn't, I try to explain. So yes, I fight this battle every week when we have our weekly conversation on the phone. And he was always asking about my career, or you know, why aren't I this? Why aren't I? And I find it hard to come up with the reasons for that beyond saying I love what I do now, which I couldn't say that I did early on in my life. So I think it is a constant struggle. I don't think there is such a thing as getting to the platform of success and being able to look down from it. I think we're always climbing the ladder. We can only look at one rung at a time, but that's fine actually. As long as we feel the rung is there and we're holding on and it's all right, it's not giving way. Sometimes that's enough. We just have to recognize within ourselves that we're good enough. Right now, we're good enough for ourselves.
Yes, we are.
And it's how we define success for ourselves. It does, success does not have to mean fame and money and being in the limelight. Success is whatever it means to you. I had this conversation with a lady who was thinking about setting up a business a number of weeks ago. And we were talking about whether she wants to set up her own business or whether she wants to go under the umbrella of someone else's work because she wants to work with the same kind of clients. And she was debating it and she was like, it feels like I really want to have the credit for it. I want to be recognized for it. But on balance, what I really want in my heart is to have time with my children. And I don't want to be focused on doing all the background stuff and setting up the business and worrying about it and spending loads of time on the computer. And I want to be just able to do this one little bit where I'm connecting with people and I don't want to do the background stuff. And so that's what she's decided to do.
I very often I hear people talking about ideas for businesses or which is actually what they need themselves. So we all, so about a very wise person who came on the program said to me, I'm only setting this up because I need it. It would be lovely if other people came along, but I just need what it is I want to offer other people. And so I think there's a real moment to take that on board, because build what you need. It is the best way forward, because you will always be in the heart of it. So just recognizing that is important.
Oh, that was such a nice message, and I completely agree. I think when we're focused, like I said earlier, when we're focused on what it is that we value and what it is that's actually genuinely important to us, like that's the thing to hold on to, because that's the thing that's gonna keep you going, work through any feelings of anxiety, any of those self-doubts. It's the thing that keeps you showing up. And again, when we focus on what is it that I want to see differently in this world? What is it that I wish that I had? Then, we're bringing in that aspect of, again, like this sense of humanity, because you can guarantee that your struggles are not just unique to you, that there are other people in the world also who will benefit from what it is that you've experienced and what it is that you've learned and what it is that you've been through. And by you showing up and sharing that and bringing your own unique solution to it, which is really what it is, it's just your own approach that has worked for you, there's going to be someone else who's going to be like, oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I needed to hear that. I needed to experience that. So I think we're very, very peaceful. This is feeling very heartful right now. So yeah. So
I think that's important. It's that being really connected to your heart and what's important to you, and also having that connection with other people. That it's important to have a mentor who's kind of been through it, and you've got someone that you can look up to who's going to be honest about their experiences and the anxieties and self-doubt that they feel as well, even though you think of them as very successful and maybe very confident. And it's also really important to have those people who are going through the same thing with you at the same time. And the one thing that kind of gets me through it is having Stacie. And whenever I'm having a meltdown, I'm like, Stacie, this is going on.
And likewise.
Yeah.
It's so true about having the people around you. I think that's when you find a person that you just don't have to explain everything to, that seems to, it's a bit of magic, isn't it, really, when that's there. It is one of the bits of the Springboard program that I think is one of the scare. Once you've got past the pressing the button bit, the email bit, and The next stage is getting the 4 hours worth of mentoring, the one-to-one mentoring, and it can be a little bit like really exciting because you get to speak to somebody who's running a social enterprise who can tell you about how it's done, if that is a thing. I don't know if that is a thing, but also it's kind of terrifying because it can be, you can worry that it could be a parent-child relationship, and of course it isn't. Everyone's coming at it from the same level. They're exactly like you. We're all the same. So they might have this grand title of being, I don't know, the founder of something or other. But at the end of the day, every day they get up and they have to put their big pants on to do what it is they do. And all they can do is talk about the mistake. One of the best things is to hear the mistakes people make and what they would have chosen to do differently. So it's that bit of learning every time. For me, it would have been saying no to some things. Saying no. No, actually, thank you very much for the offer, but no, I don't. I'm not in the right position to do that right now. But thank you very much. I've still not mastered that. That is a big thing, and I know that
someone to practice.
Saying no is liberating because you time to think. It doesn't mean that you've said no forever. It means you can come back at it. You can even say, "Can I think about that?" So I'm reflecting on a Facebook post that was put up recently by a friend who we know, and I've never seen it written down by somebody else. So I thought, obviously I know there are people out there who probably want to say no to things, but very, very clearly giving ways of allowing the chance to just step away. Because that's another thing, isn't it? Another important thing is don't say yes to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember that when you are talking to someone who is in that area, they maybe have already set up a business. They are only, like me and Stacie, are 4 years ahead of where you are now. That's all. And, it was only 4 years ago that we were in exactly the same position as you, with the same worries and self-doubts. And, some days we still have that too, as you've heard. And the people that we have as mentors and coaches, they are just further along in their journey than we are.
Okay, so if anyone wanted to reach out to you, Sally, to explore like the support that they could get from the SSE Springboard program, how can they do that? I'm going to share a flyer, but if you could offer.
Yes, so Stacie's going to share a poster with you, which has an email address, phone number, my mobile number, QR code. We're that clever. Actually, I think Stacie did the QR code for us. Then yes, you just get in touch, and I know it can be scary to just say hi. Can you tell me more about it? But that's all you need to do, and what I'll do then is I'll either arrange to phone you or text you, or we can talk on Zoom if you like, or I can just do it by email, and I can just give you the dates and some of the content, and you can have a little look at some of the documents that we work through. But we go at the pace of the people in the sessions, and we have no more than 4 people. Sometimes we only have 2. So the current session only has a series of 6 sessions, has 2 people on it, but the ones we're running in November currently only have 2 people. It's very gentle and calm, I would say. It's interesting, actually, when we did some user research, the people that had been on it, there was a lady there who runs a community centre, and when I first met her, I said, "Gosh, you've been running this for like 10 years. What is it you think you'd like to get? Because I'm worried that we're not going to give you what it is you need. We're not going to give you the, I don't know, quality level of information." And she said, "Oh, I just feel downhearted the whole time. I've always, I remember my teacher telling me when I was 7, I give up all the time." I was thinking, hang on, you're 65. Can you really remember that comment? She said, "Oh yes," she said, "last week, I had a meeting with my trustees and they just told me that my idea was rubbish." And she said, I felt right back there, right back being 7 again. And so I realized at that moment that actually what she needed was the space to explore and be held, I suppose. for that moment. So yeah, that's how we work, and there's no requirement at the end of the support we give you to do anything. You don't have to go off and madly set up an amazing business. You can literally just say, well, that was really lovely, thank you, that was really exciting, and I'll potter away and do something else, and I might come back, because that's the other thing you can do, is you can always come back. You can come back with a different idea. You can come back for a chat. You don't have to sign up to anything. You can just have a chat with us. And I personally get so much energy, I suppose, from meeting people with wonderful and small ideas, and wonderful and big ideas, and different ideas, and just the way people's creative minds work. I love it.
Yeah, and I think.
Sorry,
on, Hayley.
I had a question come in before that was, how do I start exploring an idea when I'm feeling so anxious? And they basically want to know how to stop feeling anxious so they can explore their idea. But it's really important just to remember that the anxiety goes alongside it, and it doesn't stop you. You can move forwards, and you've got courage within you, as well as this sense of anxiety that you're experiencing. So just remember that the anxiety is normal, it's going to be there, and that you can move forward even though it's there. And there's many times when Stacie and I are using our breathing techniques and power posing and doing everything that we can to manage that anxiety that we feel within us, so that we can show up and be seen. And this is how Quiet Connections can help as well. So aside from Stacie and I both individually mentors on the SSE Springboard program, but we also work one-to-one and in groups with people to show how to manage these anxious feelings, how to grow your confidence, how to start seeing the good in you, and just to gently reframe the way that you might be thinking about being quiet, because quite often we see it as a very bad thing. And hopefully you've seen through the session that being quieter can bring a lot of strengths and a lot of skill, a lot of qualities to the work that you're doing that you really need, that you wouldn't necessarily have if you weren't so quiet. So if you want support with us, then just get in touch with Stacie and I, and we're going to share a seeing the good in you exercise as well, so that you can, there you go, you can download that now. And if you sign up to get this, you are going to be directed with a couple of questions to help you uncover all of your strengths and your qualities and your own personal gifts that you always have within you, that you tend to overlook because we just focus on the negatives when it comes to ourselves. And if you do this sheet and you want a one-to-one with us, we're offering a free 30-minute session with Stacie or myself following your completion of the worksheet.
That's one thing I wanted to say, is that the SSE programs are all fully funded, just as yours are. You're running a funded program, aren't you, shortly? So it's hard enough, isn't it? Come exploring an idea and thinking about what you might do in business to also have to pay for that privilege to sort of do that. So that's why having funded programs to support people is just really important bit of the help.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are 8 minutes over, as always. Is there any questions that anyone wants to ask? We can have a little quick Q&A before we hop off. I think this has been such a great discussion and conversation, and it's definitely felt, I'd say, like, really touching. And to see,
we have had,
and
some
like
questions.
you said, oh yeah.
we have had some questions come in that are about, like, how do I market, and how do I kind of get the funding together to start it in the first place, and those are kind of questions that you might want to contact Sally to find out a little bit more about.
Yes, happy to talk through things like this. Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you all so much for joining us today, and I hope that some of you were saying it's been really helpful to gain a perspective of how being a quiet person doesn't have to hold people back. Absolutely, yes. And yeah, just to reiterate that same thing, like you can feel anxious and still take those steps towards doing what it is that you want to do. And yeah, just explore, permission to explore and just have a go. That's what it's really about. Okay, so yes, thank you all so much for coming along and for joining us, and I hope it's been helpful. Right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.